Hello, and thank you for joining me again today. In my last presentation, we discussed one of the most common questions I hear. Is Social Security running out of money? We learned that Social Security isn't disappearing and benefits aren't expected to suddenly stop. Rather, the concern centers around the Social Security Trust Fund, which is projected to be depleted around 2034 under current estimates. We also discussed how Social Security operates largely as a pay as you go system, with current workers funding benefits for today's retirees. So, the real issue isn't whether Social Security survives, it's how lawmakers choose to address the projected funding gap, which I'm sure naturally leads to the question many of you had after that presentation. What is being done about it, and are there any realistic solutions? Would it surprise you to learn we've actually been in a similar situation before? Social Security has faced funding concerns several times throughout its history, but the most significant changes occurred in 1977 and 1983. In 1977, Congress addressed long term funding concerns by modifying the Social Security benefit formula. While that was helpful, additional reforms were still needed just a few years later. By the early 1980s, Social Security was once again projected to run short of money within just a few years. In response, lawmakers passed the Social Security Amendments of 1983, signed by Ronald Reagan, implementing bipartisan recommendations to prevent insolvency and help shore up the system. These changes included gradually increasing the full retirement age from 65 to 67, subjecting some Social Security benefits to income tax, increasing payroll tax rates for both employees and employers, and delayed cost of living adjustments by 6 months. These changes improved the program's finances and actually helped build the trust fund reserves that have supported benefits for decades. As we can see, lawmakers didn't solve the problem with one dramatic change. Instead, they pulled several smaller levers at the same time, which raises another question I'm sure comes to mind. What levers are being discussed today? First, to understand how to fix the funding gap, we need to understand the actual size of the problem. If the trust fund is depleted by 2034, which is the current consensus estimate, Social Security, as a reminder, wouldn't suddenly be unable to pay any benefits. Ongoing payroll taxes are expected to continue funding 80 to 90% of scheduled benefits, leaving a funding gap of 10 to 20%. In other words, lawmakers aren't trying to replace the entire Social Security system, they're trying to close a funding gap. As I mentioned in my previous presentation, lawmakers have many potential options to help strengthen the system. And I like to think of these options as different levers that can be pulled individually or in combination with each other. First and foremost, Social Security beneficiaries represent one of the largest and most active voting groups in the country, with nearly 70 million Americans receiving benefits and millions more approaching retirement and paying into the system. Social Security is one of the most politically sensitive programs within the federal budget. Because of this, lawmakers have historically favored some gradual changes over any big dramatic changes. Some of the most commonly discussed solutions today include increasing payroll taxes. Currently, employees and employers each contribute 6.2% for a combined rate of 12.4%. Raising the taxable wage cap. This is very commonly discussed Today, earnings above a certain threshold are no longer subject to Social Security payroll taxes. In 2026, that threshold is $184,500. Increasing full retirement age. Currently, full retirement age for most beneficiaries is 67. Because people are living longer, some proposals would gradually increase the retirement age beyond the current age of 67. Adjusting benefits for high earners. Another very widely discussed option is reducing future benefits for higher earners while maintaining benefits for lower and middle income Americans. You may have heard this referred to as means testing. And modifying cost of living adjustments. Lawmakers could modify how annual cost of living adjustments, or COLAs, are calculated. So these are all great to know, but is anything actually being done? The short answer is yes and no. Lawmakers are aware of the issue, and numerous proposals have been introduced, but no major reform package has actually been passed. Different groups tend to favor different solutions. Some proposals focus on increasing revenue by raising taxes or increasing the wage cap. Others focus on reducing long-term costs through increasing the retirement age or slowing future benefit growth. While there's much disagreement regarding which solutions are best, there is broad recognition that the current path is not sustainable indefinitely. Importantly, very few proposals involve actually reducing benefits for people who are already retired or are close to retirement. So, after everything we've discussed, what does this actually mean for you, for current and future retirees? First, for those who are already receiving Social Security benefits, they're likely to experience the fewest changes, if any at all. Again, Social Security recipients represent one of the largest and most active voting groups in the country. And historically, lawmakers and politicians have been reluctant to make any significant changes that impact current retirees. For those approaching retirement, it's ideal to stay informed. While future reforms are certainly possible, they would likely be phased in gradually and implemented over many years, similar to the reforms enacted in 1983. Younger workers are more likely to experience future adjustments to retirement ages, payroll taxes, or benefit formulas. However, discussions today are generally focused on modifying the system, not eliminating it entirely. Regardless of age, Social Security remains an important part of retirement planning. Looking back, we've seen Social Security has faced funding challenges before, and lawmakers were able to make adjustments to the system. While the specific solutions may be different this time, the most likely outcome is a series of levers that get pulled, implementing a series of potential changes, not the disappearance of Social Security. Thank you for joining me today for part 2 of our discussion on Social Security. If you have any specific questions or any other details you'd like me to review, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you again for joining.